wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, educators, students, and school administrators across the U.S. face unprecedented challenges. The need for innovation in education has never been greater. Welcome to Agile's Educator Insight video series, Lessons in Leadership from the Frontline, where we spotlight districts that have not only met these challenges, but surpassed expectations, making extraordinary strides in academic achievement and learning recovery. In part one of this year's series, host Meredith Biesinger sits down with our featured expert, Dr. Robert Williams, Superintendent of Hattiesburg Public School District. Together, they explore how Hattiesburg has redefined success in education, offering a powerful blueprint for learning, recovery, and academic excellence. Their story serves as a guide for educators nationwide, demonstrating what's possible when resilience and leadership come together in a time of crisis.
My name is Meredith Biesinger, and I've been in public education for a little over 20 years as a classroom teacher, administrator, and a dyslexia therapist. I also work as an education consultant with Agile education marketing, providing content that bridges the gap between education companies and organizations and K-12 school districts.
Okay, I'm Robert Williams, Superintendent, Hattiesburg Public School District. This is my 24th year, I think, going into education. And I've been superintendent of Hattiesburg Public School District since 2016.
Well, good morning, Dr. Williams. Thank you for being with us today. We're so excited to speak with you. Hattiesburg School District has done so many wonderful things over the years. You are part of our Districts of Distinction honorees, that we want to speak with and highlight all the wonderful things that are happening in your district. So first of all, give us a little bit of background about you, how you started in education, where you're from, how you got to be superintendent of Hattiesburg Public Schools.
Okay, I'm originally from Crystal Springs, Mississippi, which is located just south of Jackson, Mississippi. Attended the University of Southern Mississippi, as well as Colin Community College. Majored in elementary education, which most people think I was secondary, but my background is actually elementary education. I did have a minor emphasis in mathematics, so I spent most of my career teaching math. I've taught 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th, 8th, and even some 9th grade. So I've had an opportunity to do both elementary, middle, and high school. My first administrative experience was as assistant athletic director and special education assistant principal for Hattiesburg High School. So I've definitely learned a lot of experiences being the assistant principal that was responsible directly for special education students. So that was definitely a tremendous learning experience. I did have the opportunity to be a middle school principal, probably about 8 years at Ann Arbor Middle School. It's kind of interesting because I also did my student teaching at Ann Arbor Middle School the first year that it opened. So 8-9 years later, fast forward, came the principal of that school. Worked in Hattiesburg Public School District since 2001. I also did my student teaching experiences in other learning blocks of my undergraduate learning experiences in Hattiesburg Public Schools, I think maybe going back to 1997. So I have a long history in Hattiesburg Public Schools. I also taught a year and a half in Forest County School. So that's a little bit about me. Always excited to be a lifelong learner, which is more than a slogan for me. How can I continue to sharpen my saw to get better and better each and every day?
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure, when we speak with different superintendents, not everybody has basically a lifelong career in one school district. So how do you think that's helped you as superintendent now? Because you've taught in those classrooms, you've worked with those teachers and students, you've been a school administrator. How do you think that's helped you as a superintendent know your students and teachers' needs?
Well, I think it's done it's been a great benefit to me. Currently, many of the students in our district, I've taught their parents. And so that always creates a relationship. And anytime you can form relationships in a community, that definitely helps with move the work. And definitely when you're trying to create transformation in the school district, those relationships builds and lends itself towards trust. And of course, we all know that the speed of trust definitely helps in accelerating any initiative that you're trying to implement in the school district. So it's been a pretty good experience. I've been able to see students from kindergarten to graduation. I was speaking with a young lady the other day. I actually remember when she was born. I think it definitely helps having those experiences in the school district.
It's amazing. Okay, so just to give people a little bit of background about Hattiesburg, because you mentioned community, and Hattiesburg is a great community. My family and I lived there for a long time. We come from there. Hattiesburg is, I call it a little big town. You know, it's hub city. You're close to New Orleans, Mobile, Mississippi Gulf Coast. But there's 2 universities there, University of Southern Mississippi and William Carey University, plus some great community colleges close by. So being in a city where there's a focus or emphasis on education, how do you think that's helped you and your position and your school district?
So I always like to say that, of course, Hattiesburg is the hub city. And I definitely think by having Hattiesburg Public School District, as well as we have 2 universities, the University of Southern Mississippi and William Carey University. In addition to that, we have Pearl River Community College in Hattiesburg as well. So I think we're also the educational hub for the state of Mississippi. It really works when you have 2 universities that are very passionate about teacher education, but also teacher preparation. And we know that quality education, not only do we need to partner with families, but you also need a strong teacher in each and every classroom. That's a key part of this work. And by having those 2 universities in our community and having strong partnerships with those universities, it does have a very positive impact on the work that we do, which is educating students.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. This Districts of Distinction series that we're doing, what really spoke to us about Hattiesburg is just the tremendous amount of progress that you've made over the years. You know, data tells a story. So we're looking at, let's say, the 2019, 2020 numbers, 9 schools in your district, correct? And some of the schools were not doing so well, we're F.D, C rated. Now we're looking at them, they're A and B rated. And so we commend you. We're proud of you. This is awesome. And one of the reasons we want to talk to you is get that why and that how did you and your teachers and staff and community do this? Speak to that for a little bit, if you will.
So one of the things that I would say is, and I always begin with, I think alphabets that we assign schools, I think the alphabet is something that matters to the adult. I think parents care about the experiences that we provide individual students and making sure that those students are learning those life lessons and academic lessons that will help them and benefit them once they graduate. I say that now that we're A district, and I also said that when we were D district, because I think the label does not define the work that we do as educators. So saying that, I think the story actually goes back to 2016. I definitely stepping into this position. Not only was the district facing academic challenges, we also were facing financial challenges. I'm affectionately known as the superintendent. I replaced the previous superintendent that quit the first day after 2 hours on the job.
Oh my.
So,
Okay.
So stepping into that work. So I think the first thing we have to do is determine or differentiate between failing and underperforming. Because I think when you put the word failing on something, that tends to take away the hope and the aspiration of improvement. So when I looked at our data, I quickly realized that we were not a failing district, we were an underperforming district. And so at that time, of course, I'm coming from the middle school, our middle school, we went back and forth between a B and a C rating. And typically, your middle schools tend to be where you have a little academic dip in those middle ages for students. So when we unpacked that work and we really looked at our elementary schools, we did have some elementary schools that were successful and some that had some academic challenges. So the first thing we tried doing was creating a school district and not a district of schools. And by that, I say, how can we align our curriculum? How can we align our instructional practice, align our assessments, and also align our goals? So for me, everything begins with our strategic plan. That's what we rally around. That's the simple document that we use each and every day to guide our work. And so once we identified, that we were really not a failing district, we were underperforming district. Well, what are those areas that we are doing really well? And so, of course, we conducted a SWOT analysis. Did take a little different approach. I think most people seek to improve by starting with those areas that they don't do so well in. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, one of the things that I saw, again, we had not only academic challenges, but also financial challenge. Where when you start those things, sometimes you kill the morale of the people that you need to help you lift what you're trying to and accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. So when we conducted our SWOT analysis, we actually came in focusing on our strengths. And the goal that I tasked to each department was, hey, these are things that we're strong in. So let's make this world class. Let's become the best in the state of Mississippi in doing these things. And by doing that, whether it was our CTE programs, whether it was fourth grade math or fifth grade language arts, we really focus on those high points. And by focusing on those high points and identifying those areas of success, we were able to then come back and have those conversations that if the CTE program can accomplish these things with the same students, then why can't we accomplish this across the board? If school A can accomplish this level of performance, why can't school B, school C? And so we took a little different approach by focusing on our areas of success and then trying to see how we can duplicate the areas of success. And so one of the things that I share with our principals, and I share anytime I have an opportunity to speak about Hattiesburg Public School District, I send my two personal children to a school district. And each and every day they wake up excited to go to school. And so my goal as superintendent is, how do I replicate that joy, that smile that I get to see each and every morning? How do I replicate that experience for all of the over 3,600 students that we had? And so that's the lens, that's the approach that I take with that.
I love that. I love how you accentuated the positive and then built and lifted from there. I've always loved that saying, lift where you stand. And I think that you and your faculty and staff and community in Hattiesburg are a great example of that. If I'm a superintendent listening to this and I'm in a different state and I'm facing some similar challenges in my district, whether it be financial or underperformance, what would your advice be to that superintendent and school district?
And typically what I'm about to say, as I mentor superintendents, they don't understand what I'm saying until after the fact. So one of the things that I would share with superintendents is that you win with people. And what I mean by win with people is that you have to be willing to be last. And what I mean by willing to be last is that oftentimes when we step into positions with title, we want to be the center of that attention. But if students are truly the core of what we do, and if teachers are truly the core of what we do, then every chance and every opportunity that we have to highlight teachers and students, then that's what we need to do. And that's as simple as there's a program. Protocol often dictates that the person with the most, I would say, authority or responsibility is first. Well, I think we got to flip that. I think we got to make sure we're highlighting our teachers and highlighting our students and our building principles as much as possible, because leadership isn't always about what you know. Leadership is to me, is your ability to motivate individuals to complete both willing and unwilling tasks. And when you're trying to transform, everyone wants to be number one, but I'm not sure everyone wakes up every day putting forth the work and the effort to be number one. So the secret sauce is, okay, we can all agree that we want to be number one, but how can we motivate each other each and every day and hold each other accountable to make sure that we are all putting in the effort to be number one? And so that's what we try doing. We definitely try keeping things simple. We don't have long mission statements. Of course, you got to put fancy words in there because we are educators. But our mission simply is to educate. When we wake up each and every day, our goal and our mission is to educate, period. And our vision is make sure we create a model teaching and learning community that graduates all students prepared for success in life, college, and the workforce. And so when you talk about vision, you don't have to remember the whole vision statement. but we all know life. We all know college, and we all know the workforce. So if you can remember 4 words: educate, life, college, and workforce, you know our mission and vision in 4 words. And from that, everything that we do, we need to take the approach of planning from the experience of the student, from the student desk outward. So even with our program. And so just take those opportunities, even if it's as simple as, hey, sometimes just picking a student and you follow that student's schedule to see what their day is like.
I love that. And really getting kind of giving as much individual attention as you can give to that student and classroom teacher.
And you really have to be intentional. At the end of the day, teachers and principal, that's what moved the needle. And I think sometimes when we transcend or get promoted to positions, we forget what it's like to be in the classroom. And I think we have to continue to remember, what is it like to be in a classroom with students, and you have to wait on someone to come hold your class. And so making sure that we take that lens each and every day to make sure we're putting forth our decisions around what's truly best for staff and what's best for students.
I love how you brought up the hub city being the hub city of education too. So when you're talking about educating, you're not just talking about educating students, although that's, most important, but you're talking about educating teachers, through maybe professional development or educating the community. What's the community support been like there from Hattiesburg to help you do that?
We have a great mayor, great city council, great board of supervisors. All of those entities really support the school district. They're active in what I really like about our community support is a lot of times people will say, if you need anything, call me. But in our community, they call me and say, hey, I can do this. Let me know when I can come do this for you. And I just think that has truly been very key in the transformation work, because it allowed me the time to work with and our leadership team to work with the transition. Our school board, you cannot do this work without a positive, and I'm going to say that again, you cannot do this work without a positive, supportive school board. And that's what we have. We have a positive, supportive school board who is truly focused on ensuring that we have quality teachers, quality facilities in place for every student every day. And that is so key in the work. And so one of the things that I matter of fact, I just got through sharing with some new teachers we're onboarding is that service is not about what you take from the table. Service is about what you bring to the table. And so as leaders, our number one goal has to be making sure that students have what they need, teachers have what they need, and that principals have what they need to be successful. And sometimes that means that Robert Williams may not get what he wants, how he wants it. But again, if it's our mission is truly about students, then that's where we have to learn as leaders to make sure that our focus is truly, truly solid on the students and the staff. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's where the rubber meets the road, as they say, when it takes doing what's in the best interest of students.
One thing that I've noticed with Hattiesburg and looking at this District of Distinction series is that you really address and take care of every student, knowing that every student might not go to a 4-year university. They might go straight into the workforce through something that they learned through, the CTE program, or you really do a good job of preparing them for their future, whatever that future may be, but a successful future. So speak to that for a little bit about what that looks like in Hattiesburg Public School District, how you're preparing students for their future.
And so I think it goes back to enrollment, enlistment, employment, and empowerment. When students graduate, make sure all students have the option of enrolling at an institution of higher learning of their choice. So whether that is a university, whether that is a college or junior college or a trade center, if they have that choice, they have that option. Enlistment, that if they graduate and so choose to join the military, that they have the option to enlist. But not only enlist, but enlist in the military and have the academic and technical skill set that they can qualify for any occupation in the military that they choose, not one that's chosen for them.
Right.
And that's so key that they have the aptitude and the academic and technical skills where if they choose to enlist, that they can make their own choices about their military occupational special employment. Hey, you graduate. Hey, are we providing you with a school set that you can go get you a job, not only take care of yourself, but also take care of your family?
Right.
But then I think lastly, and probably more importantly, is empowerment. That we empower students, whether they choose to enroll, enlist, or just go somewhere and be employed, that they are empowered to make decisions to control their destination and control how they are able to plan and map out their future life. You know, I tell people the smartest man I ever known was my dad. He's dead and gone now. I don't know whether he graduated high school or not. You know, back then, you know, you make grown folks their business.
Mm-hmm.
But all I know is each and every day I woke up as a kid and we flipped that light switch, the lights came on. When we opened that refrigerator, there was food in there. And so I say that to say that this man took care of his family by going to work, a job each and every day. And so we want to make sure, that our students are provided those opportunities to where, yes, we want you to go on and be successful as an individual, but also in the process of preparing you for success as an individual, also embedding something in you, some withiness within you, that you know that it's not always about you.
Right.
That you're going to have a family, you have a community. And once you have a family and a community, that we all individually, we have a responsibility to contribute to that family and contribute to that community. So that's really what we try doing. And again, by providing students with those opportunities, whether it's through our middle college program, students have the opportunity. It's not free, but it's at no cost to the student. We provide the books, the transportation, tuition to provide those students the opportunity to get them a leg up on their academic endeavor. But also part of that with our student athlete,
Right.
part of our coaches, their evaluation is ACT, because one of the things that's always so disheartening to me was, of course, you know, in Mississippi, they tend to do what's called a Dandy Dozen, which is the 12 best players in each sport each year. But one of the things that was always so disheartening to me when I used to coach football was when beginning of the year, they released the Dandy Dozen. Then at the conclusion of the season, signing day, many of those Dandy Dozens student athletes are not able to take advantage of their athletic talent because they do not have the academic qualifications. And shame on us as educators if we're not doing our due diligence to make sure students are academically prepared to take advantage of their talents and gifts, regardless of what those talents and gifts are, whether it's academics, whether it's athletics, or whether it's arts. It's our role and responsibility to make sure that, hey, our piece of the pie, one, we're going to make sure that you're academically prepared, but I also think we have a responsibility to make sure that students are socially responsible to where they not only create a positive environment for themselves, but they create a positive environment for those that are around them.
Absolutely. So what's your recipe or your advice in doing that as a former coach, former teacher? I know you're former military as well. What's your best counsel there? You have a student who's a great athlete, but maybe academically struggling. There's a lot of potential and opportunity out there for them, but we've got to make, the ends meet. What's your advice there?
So I would say, and again, it goes back to the team. I think it has less to do with me. I think it has more to do with the quality teachers that we have in our district, the quality school principals that we have, the quality support staff that we have in Hattiesburg Public School District at Central Office, all working towards a common goal. But then also, moreover, our parents and community allow us to do the work that we do. And even when we do make mistakes, because we're all human, we make mistakes.
Sure.
Our parents and our community, although we don't like making mistakes, when those mistakes do happen, of course, we own those mistakes. And our parents and our community, they allow us to recover and rebound from them. And so I say all that to say this, making sure we appreciate those people that are around us, making sure that we have a clear strategic plan. And when I say strategic plan, I'm talking about a strategic plan that you can actually implement. And so I tell the story. I remember this superintendent told me that he had a principal that called him one time and called him and told the superintendent, well, I have this issue. Superintendent said, well, what's your issue? He said, well, I have this teacher that I really want to get rid of. He said, okay, well, make sure you go in and evaluate the teacher and give them feedback. Yeah. He said, well, I know that. He said, but when I go in to evaluate the class, they put on a dog and pony show. And the superintendent told the principal, he said, well, is the dog and pony show good instruction? He said, yes. He said, some of the best teaching ever seen. He said, well, is the dog and pony show good classroom management? He said, you wouldn't believe it. It's perfect model classroom management. Superintendent told the principal, he said, well, I tell you what, keep going in the classroom so that teacher can keep doing dog and pony show. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that students are being successful regardless of how we get there. And so I say that to say, don't complicate it. At the end of the day, regardless of what your strategic plan is and consists of, it has to include how can we focus on students? How can we provide positive work environments for staff? How can we provide positive learning environments for students in the simplest form? And so we want to make sure we're supporting our teachers, supporting our students, and supporting our building administrators so that they can be effective at their jobs. And so sometimes that means we have to kind of slow down. Sometimes we have to continue to look at, okay, what can we get rid of so that we can be better? And so often education, we're good at adding stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not so good at reflection and eliminating. And so that's something that I would just recommend, suggest, and just continue to stay focused on the work. Focus on the work.
That's very good advice. And that's a great example too. What a great story to share. Speaking of adding things, at the district level, I know you probably get contacted quite a bit by vendors and education companies, things like that. What's your best advice for these companies and vendors to engage with school districts? How can they best engage with school districts instead of being, oh, well, maybe this is just another curriculum company or another data company? What would really get your attention, I guess?
So what I would say is making sure everything aligns with your strategic plan. And one of the things that I actually do really with vendors is that I really don't meet with a lot of vendors. I direct them to the people who actually do the work.
Okay.
And so if we're going to purchase a vacuum cleaner, I don't use the vacuum cleaner. So I direct them to the people who are over the people who use the vacuum cleaner. And so I think a lot of times for me, that is really streamlined a lot of work because a lot of times they want to meet with individuals who they feel as though have the final decision. Well, I empower my directors and my building principals to make those decisions based off of the information that they have by being boots on ground. But that's where you really got to have a strategic plan that's lean and focused. So I'm also retired military after 20 years, Army and Army Reserves. We used to say aim small, miss small. So if you have a true focus, and staying focused is something that you have to stay on top of each and every day. So in our strategic plan, we talk about it at each monthly administrators meeting. We're going to do a SWOT analysis each year on their strategic plan. We're going to send out customer service surveys. We send out customer service surveys to our parents that they fill out on the building principal. I send out customer service surveys to principals and assistant principals that they fill out on directors.
Okay.
And so we do that across the board. And it's not something that we use for evaluative purposes per se, but it's what can we do to gain that those one or two nuggets of things that we can do better that can make the experience better for everyone else. So those are just some of the things we try doing. And again, it takes positive school board that's supported. And that's what we have in our school district. They allow us to do this work. Also, we have great teachers that are committed to our students. And one of the things, just kind of give you an insight because I allow teachers to provide evaluation feedback on the principal. And with each of our principals, the summary of that feedback was that the principals are passionate about the improvement of our students and that they're committed to the success of our students. And that was clear across the board. So when you have individuals that are committed to that work, that actually makes the job easier because you don't have to light a fire. They come to work every day already burning.
Everything that you're telling me, I just think of the saying all in. It just sounds like everybody is all in every day. And that's what's making such a huge difference in your student success and, in the data that supports that as well.
And I think so important with all in, sometimes people take all in to mean that we all agree on everything.
Oh, no.
so all in for us means that, okay, we're going to disagree.
Right. We're showing up. Yeah.
But because we have this strategic alignment around students, when we do disagree, we're able to be disagreeable, but we can take that disagreement, but still build a consensus about what's best for kids.
I love it.
And so I think also as leaders, we have to have thick skin. One of the things that I'm working on is listening. That is, kind of catch people off guard. They say, well, why didn't he say anything? That's why I'm working on my listening. So people want to be heard. And sometimes in the speed of the day, when you really don't have time to have long meetings, you just kind of sort of listen, but you're quick to respond. And so that's something that I'm working on. I think you have to be a reflective leader, know when to push, when to pull. I try being in the buildings every week, visit every school every week, but also you need to know when sometimes your presence is a distraction. And so that's where although you still maintain your visibility, you may do something different. Instead of going to observe classroom instruction, hey, you go to the building, you just talk to all the custodians and see how their day is going. Sure. You go to the building, you talk to the cafeteria workers. So there's a lot of ways you can measure what's going on in the school to get a sense of the culture of the school. Outside of that, do hallway chit chat with students. And so, for example, our child nutrition director, she has to meet with students monthly to get feedback on that. So a lot of times I just have like a guiding question. I just stop and ask students, hey, what you think about this? And so I call it to catch my ears. I let them catch my ears.
I like it. And I'm sure that builds relationships for you with faculty and students, And so when they see you coming, they don't, maybe get nervous or, things that tend to happen. Is there any other advice that you would give to school districts who or maybe have been in a similar situation that Hattiesburg Public School District was in 2016?
I would just say make sure. So one, put your ego aside. Because if you're going into this work wanting to be the hero, I think you're going to fall short. I think you have to go into this work really thinking about how you can empower others to be superheroes each and every day. So one of the things I ask my leadership team is, what's your superpower? And thinking about how can we maximize their superpower individually to help the collective organization. So that's one. The second thing I would say, have a clear strategic plan of what you're trying to accomplish. It does not have to be complicated because many times all too often in education, we have this big 60, 70, 80-page document that we never read. Keep it simple. What can we do each and every day on a consistent basis to move the school? For example, quality tier 1 instruction at the seat, at the desk of every child every day. Quality tier 1 instruction at the seat of every child, every desk of every child every day. Just with that goal alone could be a strategic plan. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's tremendous advice. And if everybody did that, think of the strides that we would make, not only in their academic success, but in the life of the the individual child.
So normally when I talk about when we're trying to transform, and I think this is so key that as superintendents work with their boards, oftentimes we get occupied by the fruit, the gratification of what we see. But the true work of transformation is in the root. That's the dirty work. That's the work that you don't see. So it's those things that you have to put in place that you don't see each and every day that we have to focus on. And so that's what we typically have to kind of do with that. And it kind of goes back to when I talk about teachers, most people, if you ask them if they want to make a difference, it doesn't matter what vocation or career, everyone wants to make a difference. But in its simplest form, let's just say you're a secondary teacher. The average teacher, if you're content, you're going to teach probably 100 students a day. 100 students. And you take those 100 students and you multiply that by the 25 years or 28 years that you'll be in education. That's 2,800 lives that you will have the opportunity to mold. But one of the things we got to always remember about a mold is that you can make it, but you can also break it. And so as educators, we got to make sure that when students come in our zone of influence, that we have to remember that we're leaving our DNA with them. We're leaving our fingerprint. And I remember there used to be this song that used to say these three words. And it talks about hearing those three words and how special it makes you feel. I think they say they short and kind, they sweet and simple. And it says, I love you. Well, there's some other words that you can hear as an educator that I promise you, there's no other feeling like this in the world. Now, it's a little bit more than three words. It's when you start teaching and 10, 15, 20 years later, you're in the store and someone walks up to you and you kind of recognize them, but you really don't remember them. You see them looking at you and you wonder why they're looking at you. And they have some little people with them and they walk up to you and they say, you probably don't remember me, but you used to be my teacher. There is no other feeling in the world that compares to that. When someone that you haven't seen in 20 years, they say, you used to be my teacher. And so that's the work that we do. That's the focus that we have to have each and every day. It's not about accolades. It's not about awards, plaques. Hey, they sit on your desk. Certificates, we lose that stuff. But when you see that student or you see that person in a grocery store or someone out and they walking up to you with these little people and you're trying to figure out why this person looking at me. And they look down and they tell them, you used to be my teacher. There's nothing in the world that beats that feeling. But that's what you got to put into the work each and every day. Not on your best day, because it's easy to be good on your best day. That's the passion you got to bring with you on your worst day, on the day that you want to stay in the bed. Because on your worst day, when you can really, really, truly make a difference in someone else, because a lot of times people know you're having a bad day. But when they see you continue to pour into them on your worst day, that makes them want to run harder and go faster for you. So that's what it's all about.